Regulars of CMS for Marketers, we're so excited to have Jennifer here to share with us tons of expertise. So I'll probably hop off and I can hop back on my camera if we want to help do Q&As at the end, but I'll let you take over. We're excited to hear what you got to share, and you can go ahead and dig in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Megan. All right, so jumping in, I'm going to do a quick intro of myself. As Megan said, I am just joining as a guest speaker here today. We're going to talk about HubSpot domain, website, and blog settings that impact SEO, managing redirects in HubSpot, HubSpot SEO tool, and a little AI, and then have some time for questions and resources at the end. It is a 30-minute office hours, so I'm going to go a little speedy, but hopefully it's not too bad. Again, my name is Jennifer Nixon. I've been using HubSpot since 2016 and building websites for 26 years. My first website was using GeoCities, so that's kind of a long time ago, if anybody knows what that is. I live in Temple, Texas, just north of Austin. I'm currently director of RevOps for Worqflow, a HubSpot Diamond partner, and also freelance consultant for Maca Agency. They created Power Pro theme. It's the second highest selling theme in the HubSpot marketplace. And I'm also the hug leader for SEO performance and CMS. So that's what brings me here today. I'm a longtime member of CMS for Marketers and have learned so much through this group. So I hope to be able to share some of that with you all. So jumping right in, the first thing that we're going to talk about are language-specific redirects. And this is something that comes up in the HubSpot community quite frequently with new website users. HubSpot added a language-specific redirect that is enabled by default. And what that does is essentially create redirects to any of the links on your page if there's a language variant for that. But what it can also do is cause your homepage not to load on your initial, basically when you configure your domain. And a lot of that has to do with your language settings. So we're just going to walk through those settings really quickly to make sure everybody kind of has an understanding of what they are and how they work. In your domain settings, you can set a primary language for each subdomain and domain hosted. So if your blog has a different domain than your website, you can set a language for each of those. Even if your language is English, it's important to choose your primary language because it helps search engines identify the content a lot easier, and it will speed up how quickly your website is indexed and how easily your content is recognized. And what you want to be careful of is this little toggle here, which says use prefix in slug. So that's the dangerous one. If you toggle that on, it will include the 2-letter abbreviation for all of your domain's primary language in the URL. So if your website is entirely in English, it's going to add /en to every page. So if your website is company.com and you type that in, it's going to get a big 404 error or maybe even a server error because it doesn't actually exist there. It would exist at company.com/en. So that's what that little toggle here does with the use prefix in slug. And so you want to make sure that unless you are using multi-language and you want that, to happen, that you don't turn that on. Another one is this enable language specific redirects, which can sometimes cause confusion with what is happening around your website. And all it really does is say, if you have your website in more than one language, for example, English and French, and you've built all your pages with English links, if there is a link on your page that goes to another English page and you have a French version of it, if your visitor is on the French version of the page, it will take them to the French link automatically. So that's what it does. But if your website is primarily or only in English and you have no plans to do that, I do recommend turning it off, as well as not using, as I mentioned, this previous setting for the prefix and slug, because that's going to be the easiest way to get your website up and running quickly. The other feature setting that a lot of users aren't maybe focusing on is your sitemap. And a sitemap is used to show search engines what content you have available, and it helps them to crawl and determine the structure of your website. If you want to see what your sitemap looks like, you can add sitemap.xml to the end of your HubSpot hosted website, and most websites really, and that will result in your sitemap file, and that's how the web crawlers are seeing your website. So in HubSpot, what's really important to know is that any of your website pages and blog pages are added to your sitemap automatically. But you do have the option to add and remove pages. So if you have a website page that you don't want in your sitemap, you can remove it. And if you have a landing page, which is not added automatically, that you would like to treat as an index page, then you can add that to your sitemap so that Google understands where that fits into your website structure. So I kind of talked about this, but if you remove a page, it doesn't explicitly tell search engines not to index it. So if you're trying to hide a page from Google or from the search robots, you will need to update your robots text file to prevent it from being shown in search results. So this is kind of a little unknown thing with landing pages specifically. A lot of people using HubSpot know that your landing pages are not in your sitemap, but what they don't know is that they can still be indexed. So on the robots.txt file, which is really tiny here at the bottom, you can see that you have the option to disallow specific pages. So if you're running Google Ads or I saw your question, Megan. Hang on one second. So if you're running Google Ads, this is kind of the best example. If you have an ad that you're tracking conversions for, you wouldn't want somebody to find that outside of the conversion path. You would want them to see the ad, go to the landing page and convert. But if they can find it in Google search, then that can mess up your conversion path. And those are usually the pages, the landing pages that you would want to disallow. Another example, especially for HubSpot users, is most of you are probably redirecting your landing pages to a thank you page. And typically, thank you pages have additional content or information. Sometimes they have a downloadable resource. Those are pages that you wouldn't want somebody to find without going through your conversion path. So those are examples of pages that you would want not included in your sitemap and also included in your robots text. To answer Megan's question, which is there a reason why we would or would not want a page or landing page in our sitemap? It sort of depends. Typically, landing pages are meant for converting. Sometimes people use landing pages to have a headerless page layout. Maybe they want to create something different, and so you add it in. Like I can think of some legal pages sometimes get built as landing pages, and so you add that in as your sitemap. As far as a website page situation that you wouldn't want in your sitemap, that would be really use case specific. I just removed one. Maybe you did a test page, like you published something to test something on one of your domain, or you're doing something like that. You would want to go in and remove that from your sitemap. But I can't really think of one off the top of my head where I would want to exclude it intentionally. But it's there if you need it. There are some specific use cases. All right. Another feature that is in your settings is for AMP, which is accelerated mobile pages. This is a mobile specific page format for your mobile devices. And in HubSpot, it's exclusively for your blog. And what it does is basically allow your content to load instantaneously because it strips out all of the code like JavaScript and style sheets. And it basically only delivers the content to your readers so that they can digest the information very quickly. AMP pages typically perform a lot better for mobile users, and so that's why it's there. But if you do very stylized blogs, or you have very content-heavy blogs, or sidebars and lots of information, and you want to create a unique mobile experience, and performance isn't your top priority, then you can turn off Google AMP. But leaving it on is something that is highly recommended. Little known feature that HubSpot has. And now let me see how we're doing. I'm gonna do a quick time check on myself. All right, good, perfect. So We're about halfway. I'm going to jump into managing redirects. It is important to note that redirects are part of Marketing or CMS Hub Pro, and also Service Hub Pro for the knowledge base. So if you're not on CMS Hub Starter does have redirects, but if you're not on one of those plans, like if you have CMS free, you're not going to be able to manage redirects. And so that's something to kind of keep in mind if you're growing a website. With the URL redirects tool, you can redirect traffic from any URL that's on a HubSpot hosted domain. So if you had a WordPress website and it had a different domain, you wouldn't be able to use HubSpot to create redirects for that. The redirects would have to be managed within your DNS, which would be redirecting one domain to the other. So you can't, unless you connect it as a redirect domain, you can't direct them from one to the other. So that's just important. If you are using redirects, HubSpot is going to create most of them automatically for you. So if you created a website page and then you make a change to the URL, it's automatically going to create a redirect for you so that any of your users that might have visited the page can still access it. But there's a few key parts of a URL or a redirect. Priority. HubSpot assigns the lowest priority by default, usually in like the millions. So if you have some high priority content, like if you changed your about page from /about to /about us, you're not going to want the priority of that redirect to be, 1 million plus. You're going to want to come in and adjust the priority so that it's higher up. Even if it's in the hundreds, 200s, you want it to be higher priority so that Google and Search Console and the index knows how to find those redirects quickly. Otherwise, they might think that you've removed that content and it will disappear from search. So priority is an important one. The redirect style, permanent versus temporary. If you have removed a page, it is 99% of the time permanent. Temporary would be if you have a page, it's not doing well, and you decide you're going to take it down before you publish a replacement. You would want to set up a temporary redirect to let Google and the other search bots know, hey, this page exists. We're taking it down for a little bit, but we're going to bring it back. And that helps them keep the site index pretty clean. Match query strings. Be careful with that one. You will want it unchecked most of the time. That one tells you if the URL has to be exact. Whatever the user is clicking on, it will only redirect if it is an exact match. That's very helpful if you have, for example, a Google ad with search or UTM parameters or other things like that, and you only want it to redirect based on those query strings. Ignore trailing slash. That means that the end can have a slash or not have a slash. You're going to always want that checked. And ignoring the protocol. Because HubSpot gives you SSL automatically, you're going to want to make sure that you allow them to type it in either way and still arrive at your preferred, which would be HTTPS. And that will make sure that it accounts for both. And then there is another option to disable the redirect when a page exists at the requested URL. So if you unpublish a page, it creates a redirect, and then you were to publish that page again, that little checkbox is going to say, hey, the page is live, so just ignore this redirect, and then HubSpot will ignore it. So that helps if you reactivate a URL, or maybe you migrated URLs a long time ago and you happen to use one that already existed. That's kind of a helpful one to know. We talked a little bit about migrating and domains and how that works. But if you are migrating from another CMS and you have a history of redirects, it's really important to bring those along with you, because just because you're changing the host, just because you're moving to a new CMS, doesn't mean that those links aren't still out there. So if you have existing redirects, you can use a CSV. And I'm actually going to drop this template in because it is very, if I can find my mouse here, it is a very helpful one to have. This is the HubSpot redirect template, and it's going to be a very weird URL. Let me get their tracking code out of here. So this is the CSV file download, and it just makes it a lot easier to build out your URLs. Or your redirects, so that you have the proper structure and columns, and that you're inputting the information in the best way. All right. And okay. Oh, I think I went too far. No, I did good. Okay. So now we will jump over to the SEO tool. And I wanted to spend just a little more time on this. It is available. There are SEO recommendations at the page level for every HubSpot account, but the SEO topics tool is specific to Marketing Hub and CMS Hub Pro and Enterprise. So I'm going to talk specifically about this SEO tool, which is the topics tool. But you will find a lot of SEO tools built in when you're working on your website pages and landing pages. It's all the little things like on the optimize tab where it's going to flag you if you have the right number of word counts in your meta description, or if your title tag is too long. All of those are built-in SEO tools that make HubSpot easy to optimize for. But the HubSpot SEO tool is basically an aggregate of recommendations from different sources. So it's going to bring together test results from Page Speed Insights, Google Lighthouse. It's going to have some Search Console. It has best practices built in. And so it's really going to bring together a lot of different technical and non-technical SEO related items into one centralized location for you. If you're focused on page performance, it's better to run your tests with PageSpeed Insights or Google Lighthouse directly, because you're going to get more specific instructions related to how to fix those. And there is also some interpretation that is a little bit easier with the SEO tool, but for comparative reasons, it gives you a lot more background and insight if you use those tools directly. For the SEO tool, there are filters. Don't be surprised. I think I have a snapshot on the next slide. Yeah, see, this is a Maca agency website. The last time I scanned it, 725 pages, and there's still 720 recommendations. Now, this is with a 99 score on mobile for most pages in terms of performance. So yeah, there are little things, but a lot of them are false flags. And so that's why it's really important to have a system for how you go through these and really understand what they mean. If you're new to SEO and the SEO tool, start with filters. Set the impact to high, the technical difficulty to low, and make sure the role is marketer or the marketer with the asterisks. If you try to just dive into the one at the top of the page, you're going to feel maybe overwhelmed because it requires a developer or it's highly technical. So try to start with some of the low-hanging fruit first. The marketer's asterisk role is one that may require a developer for non-HubSpot websites, or if your theme has custom modules. That means that there could be some component that is flagged as typically being a marketer or content related item, but it might require a developer to fix it. With that said, if you filter by developer, not all of those items will require an actual developer to fix. A lot of them are taken care of in the theme based on how the theme settings are configured. So it might tell you, your responsive images are, not the right size on mobile, or your mobile images are too large. Things like that can actually be addressed in theme settings for a lot of themes in terms of what the responsive image size ratio is. So while it's flagged as developer, it's not necessarily always developer item. So this just shows kind of how the filters work here across the top so that you can see what it looks like. Again, you might have things like, I'll use this one as an example. It says fix broken internal links. That's usually always a marketer, it means that you have a link on your page and it is connecting across to a page that you've unpublished or doesn't exist anymore. And you want to fix that because you don't want Google and the search bots to see that your content is out of date and linking to something that doesn't exist. In this case, it's actually some weird anchor link issue that I can't figure out. And I'm going to be perfectly honest about it. It is like a hidden character thing, and our devs can't figure it out either. So we kind of think it might be a false flag on HubSpot side or something being picked up on. And so you will see things like that. And the most important thing is just like try to get the best understanding you can. If you're working with a theme from the marketplace, check their support for help, check their documentation. You can also reach out to HubSpot support if you don't know what something means or you're not able to find a fix for it. The HubSpot SEO community is also a great place to go for help on understanding what these things mean and whether or not, like, how you would fix them. But I wanted to jump in a little bit to page speed insights because that is one way you can run your performance test. And a lot of agencies and companies kind of know about page speed insights, and the results are pretty good. You can see in this tiny snapshot here, I ran this through our website, and it's 81 on mobile and 100 on desktop. And I'm pointing this out because PageSpeed Insights is going to run your website through using Google servers, not HubSpot. And HubSpot does a lot server side to help optimize the performance of your website. So if you use Google Lighthouse, this is the same website page. On mobile, the score is now 99 compared to PageSpeed Insights, which was 81. So there are a lot of factors that go into page performance. If you didn't know, if you have a lot of Chrome extensions and you get mad every time you try to load a website and it's not loading, Chrome extensions actually impact the performance of every website you go to. So if it's a Chrome extension you don't use a lot, you can get rid of it, or you can browse incognito to help speed things up. I did include some steps in here on how to use Google Lighthouse, so we can share the slide deck afterwards if anybody wants to go through these steps of how to configure it. But I want to make sure that we have time to talk about how you can optimize your performance and a few other things before we get to questions. So for performance testing, run both. Run PageSpeed Insights, run Google Lighthouse. You'll also want to run each test 3 times. So the first time you run it, it might be low, it might be high, and the second time it might inverse. And then after you run the test a certain number of times, it's going to start to equalize. If your website has never run through performance testing, it's going to do worse in the beginning. So run each page through that you want to test 3 times and create an average. I have this performance tracking spreadsheet. I'll drop it in the chat. It has basically a template for you to track all of the metrics so that you can see the results. And the most important thing to understand is the results are per page. It's not your entire website. So if you have pages that are critical for your conversion path, you want to run those first, and you want to test how they're doing and optimize those first. Homepage is definitely one of those, but then from there, you might want to look at, the pages that are converting your leads for campaigns and things like that. Once you run your initial test, then you can start to work on recommendations from the SEO tool or directly from PageSpeed and Lighthouse. As you start to make changes and make improvements, you can identify them like per page and then run those tests again, and you can compare the results to see how it's doing. A lot of times, you see, and I'm going to backtrack here a little bit on the slides. I went the wrong direction. So I'm going to show you. So on this one that shows 81 on mobile, there are some suggestions there, and some of it has to do with HubSpot, but you might have an 81, and that might be the best that your website can be. based on the content you want to convey. So if you need videos, if you need content heavy website pages, then that's still very good. Like anything really above 76 is probably like phenomenal. Getting all green seems to be like all the rage these days with marketers. And I totally get it. It's fun to see those green dots, but just understand that there is a balance between performance and content. And so if you keep pursuing performance over content, basically the best performing page on the internet is a blank page. And we don't want blank pages. We want pages that deliver value for our customers. So just make sure that, what the template can do is say like, okay, I just invested 3 hours to optimize all of the images for this page, and it resulted in, a 1 second difference and like 2 points on my score. Is that worth it to do across all of the pages? And you can kind of develop like an ROI for your testing and decide what you want to go after. So you don't want to just run performance and shoot for green or shoot for a perfect score just because. It is possible. You just want to make sure that you have that right balance. And the last thing that I want to really share is about AI. So there is a lot coming for HubSpot with AI. That was all the talk at Inbound. And this is just one example that I actually really like. This on the right, showing the full settings, was my original meta description. HubSpot was telling me it was great. I still had some characters remaining. I could have made it a little bit longer. But if you click this little content assistant icon here, then it's going to read your page and generate a meta description for you. This is what it generated automatically. And the one below is kind of what I tweaked it to because, and I accidentally made them overlap, but the one that it generated for me was still over the character count. It was too long. So it was going to get cut off anyway. And anything over that 155 characters won't be visible anyway. So even if it's valuable, it's not going to help anybody. So you can cut that short based on what it generates. You also want to proof it. So this says, stay up to date with the newest power updates for professional version 32. Well, no, it's not just related to version 32. It's going to be related to every version of the theme moving forward. So unless we wanted to update the meta description every single time there was an update, we wouldn't want that information in there. So it's important that whenever you use these AI tools that you read them for accuracy and also just to make sure that it still meets what you need. You'll see here they even have it for page title, so you can optimize that. The little content assistant is throughout. Basically, I don't know, I feel like it's everywhere. So you will see it. You'll see it in blogs. You can create outlines for your blog post. You can write introductory paragraphs. You can do a whole bunch natively in HubSpot now. So don't be afraid to check it out. Meta descriptions is a really good place to start with AI. If you feel like you barely have a grasp on meta descriptions, it would not hurt to open up your pages and just run through and see what it suggests and just decide, is this better or worse than what I have? Copy it first, copy your version so you don't have to figure out what it was. But yeah, definitely check that out. And with that, I think we have, I went over by 2 minutes. Sorry, guys. So we probably don't, I don't know, Megan, we probably don't have a lot of time for questions, but.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. If you have a few minutes to say, Jennifer, if anyone does have questions, you can hop on. If not, thank you again. We will get all of these slides and then the resource links from you, Jennifer, so we can send them out to everyone who's attending. I definitely took away, we are not being intentional with setting languages for our site. So that's an action item for us, and a lot of cool stuff on the page speed insights. It's one that we try to tackle in HubSpot Website Grader is definitely not always the best route to go. So it's good to have some tangibles for how to strategically tackle those. So I got a lot of valuable information out of today, and I hope everyone else did too. you guys
Awesome.
have any questions, Jennifer and I can hang out for a couple minutes. And if not, thank you guys for spending your Thursday with us. And thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing.
Yeah. I'm happy to hang around. Thank you guys so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, Paige and Jen and Kelly, for sticking around. I know it was speedy. That was a lot to throw at you guys in 30 minutes, but
And
I'm glad.
also, if anyone's here and wants to go more in depth into some of this SEO stuff, Jennifer hosts an SEO office hours.
Yep.
So we'll get that link as well.
Yeah, I could drop
Always.
that in. I know I recognize some of you guys, but yeah, so I have one that is specific for SEO, but again, the HubSpot community, whether it's the CMS for marketers group or there's an SEO study group, there's an SEO board. If you have questions about that, definitely jump in and ask those questions. I'm one of the people that answers them, and there's a few other really awesome technical SEO experts that will get you pointed in the right direction. So yeah, and Kelly, the link, I dropped it in the chat right above the right before you asked. So that's the link to the hug for SEO and performance. But yeah, there's a lot of resources in the HubSpot community for SEO, and I feel like this 30 minutes probably scratched the surface of what's possible. But I'm glad, Megan, at least that you found some value in it.
I did have a question on our end that as you were talking through redirects, if you're doing, so like, let's say we're doing a website launch and we are doing like a mass import of redirects. So, for whatever reason, we're changing some of them or redirecting some of the URLs that no longer exist, et cetera. So it's a kind of a mass cleanup. Would you recommend us adding like a priority column to that sheet and then just like marking it as, whatever 10 and just having that standard as we're doing those mass redirects? That's also not a part of my process, but I was like, I probably should be.
Yeah, so I will send you, I might be able to find it. I have some documentation on redirects.
Okay.
But what I would do is either use the template that I shared
Yes.
or export from the account, because it'll bring in all the ones you already have. And then it has the priority column. And I'm not joking, HubSpot starts at like way in the millions. What you can do is look at your core pages and start those like from 0 to 50. And I even do blocks of like 10, like,
okay.
And say like for the really, really important stuff, I reserve 0 to 10 for like something urgent. Like I don't even use them unless we absolutely have to. And then like, 10 to 20 or 11 to 20 is going to be, anything that's product or service, like core. And then, the 30s you might use for team, or, like you can bump out based on priority of the content relative to that client, what number. If you have a website with hundreds of and thousands of redirects, you can do it in groups of hundreds.
Yeah.
But like reserve spaces for yourself so that you're not having to constantly renumber them.
Totally.
So, start, your core pages. If you have, the other thing is like, I think the reason HubSpot does it is because it will automatically create them for you. And a lot of times they were never live to anybody but you.
Right.
And so you end up with these redirects in the system that you don't really need.
Totally.
So if you can catch those and clear them out before you submit and before, Google Search Console starts picking up on those redirects, you can save a lot of like, honestly, redirects is an amazing retainer opportunity for agencies, because there is so much like management you can do there. But yeah, I would export if you have a client with lots of them, you can export it and you can come up with like criteria to like filter it and say like, does it contain like the sandbox in the URL? Like then you can deprioritize those and you can focus on the ones with your main domain, or if you're importing like from a migration and, like you said, well, we might have had 5 product pages in WordPress, but we decided in HubSpot we were only having 2, and then we were going to split off from there and use different URLs. Those 5 URLs you would want to redirect very specifically to the pages that they best relate to, and then the priority would be really high. Versus if you had like 3,000 blogs that were kind of useless and low performing, and you weren't going to carry them over, but you still wanted Google to know that they don't exist, like those might be, a much lower priority.
Okay, that's good to know. Yay,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I
Yeah,
think
no, I know that was a lot, but priority is definitely something you can leverage to like organize and really optimize those redirects. So
I love that. It's definitely not something that we're being in any way like super intentional about. It's something that like case by case I'll go through and change some of them if I know, but it's not that's a nice sort of strategy for a wholesale. Like how do I implement, manage, structure this when we're dealing with like again larger volume typically of redirects or redirect imports. So that's a good another tip to add to our process. We're gonna have to have you back, Jennifer, because we're learning too much, and also be regular attendees of your SEO hugs.
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Megan. I will follow up with you on the links to make sure you have everything
Perfect.
so you can email it out.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jennifer, and thanks,
Yep.
guys. Happy Thursday.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.